Here's Blossom the possum.
Oh, my gracious.
Look at there. Isn't she a beauty?
Look at her hands,
Just
Charles.
look at her. Look at those hands in the back. She must be related to an ape. Just look at those hands. Isn't that proof that she's related, really? Well, I get a kick out of that. And it's just what I ask the kids. Isn't that proof that she's related to an ape?
Oh, my
well,
gracious.
everyone knows she's not related to an ape. Look at this tail. Why, if we had tails like this that would hold on to things, and big feet like that would hold on to things, we'd have to throw away all our playground equipment, wouldn't we? I mean, they'd be all too tame. So there you go, Blossom the possum. What a wonderful creature for God to give us, to allow for a lot of folks to have meat. I'll tell you, this is quite an animal. She has been used as a source of food by the Indians for hundreds of years. If you study Indians and dig up old Indian grave sites and stuff, I'm sure many an Indian group ate more possum than we eat chicken today.
Oh, my.
Look at that. Look at her drooling. My, oh, my. You're the drool in this thing. Well, she is a scavenger. You see, and scavengers eat just about anything, and they need a lot of good saliva. And of course, there's a lot of enzymes in the saliva to start working on all that food they're going to eat. And then, too, possums being marsupials, they've got a pouch. So look at the nice little nursery she's got. Can you see this little nursery? How's that camera? Look at this, a very private area. The poor thing has to go through all this nonsense. Anyway, she's got all her nipples in here, and she's got a nice little pocket there for the babies to go in. It's nice and warm and furry, soft. Blossom, come on. You've been a good girl even on camera. We're going to give you something to eat. Now, come here. Don't you get too close to Jan's fingers.
Yes, thank you,
Don't
Charles.
get too close to Jan's fingers. This possum sometimes thinks fingers are hot dogs. Come on there, girl. Look at there. Look, boy, she woofs that down in a hurry.
Are they
You're
nocturnal,
kind of
Charles?
sloppy. Yeah, she's nocturnal. She's kind of sloppy there. And you have to be a little careful how you feed possums. By the way, all you children that are watching this program, don't treat wild possums like I'm treating this one, please. She's got 50 very sharp teeth, and most possums just won't let you do this. In fact, a lot of people with my training don't play with possums because they know what a possum can do. They got such sharp teeth, they don't mind just digging right into whatever is nice and soft and edible. And your fingers are soft and edible.
Okay.
So, this animal here, of course, she's been handled and handled and handled.
How old is she, Charles?
She's just 2 years old, and that's about the extent of their lives. Normally, they don't live much more than 2 years. Come on there, Blossom. Come on. Get the rest. Well, I'm not going to force you to eat that little piece. Yeah, she thinks, well, there must be more here where this one came from. Look, she's quite a gal. Got a nice furry coat. And once they're about 2 years old like this, they're really quite slow, and they just can't make it through that last winter.
I'm watching her eyes, and that's why I asked you if she was nocturnal, because the focus tends to be just a little bit off on her focus.
Yeah, she is a little off. I know, she's quite an odd gal. She's got 13 nipples in her pouch. And when the babies go into the pouch, there's really a scramble to go into that pouch. Because according to good research, there's 20 to 22 babies born from a litter.
Oh, my.
And she only takes 12 and a half days to have her babies. So here's an animal that leads a pretty fast track. Really. She, in 12 and a half days, she produces these babies, and they immediately go into the pouch. And here's a good opportunity for me to say something about natural selection. You know, natural selection comes out as somewhat of a mechanism for change. You've probably heard of that as a mechanism for change. Well, here's a fine example of natural selection occurring each and every litter. Because when she has her babies, 20 to 22 babies, there's only room for 13. And so who gets a chance to get into the pouch and live? It's the strongest, the fittest. It literally is the survival of the fittest. So, I mean, survival of the fittest is something that's been observed long before Darwin came along. Maybe he kind of coined it. I'm not even sure if he coined that term, survival of the fittest. He perhaps did. And yet, what's the difference? The point is, survival of the fittest does occur, and it occurs regularly with possums. So, has the possum changed because of all this selection?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Fascinating.
See, now scientists that study fossils find fossil remains of possums in with the dinosaurs. And so this is something that just befuddles those that think everything should change into something different over millions of years. So if these animals lived with the dinosaurs, which I think they did, according to the fossil record, it isn't if, it's almost a certainty they lived with the dinosaurs. But let's say if they lived this 80 to 100 and some million years ago, that's the big if. But let's say they did live that long ago. Well, why haven't they changed? You see, why haven't they? Here is a beautiful example of things not changing in time. So, which is another thing that I like to quote to kids that a lot of adults don't know. And the fossil record supports two things, tells us two things that really support creation. Oh, it tells us a lot more than that, but let's limit it to two for sake of brevity here. One, when you find animals in the fossil record, they rapidly appear and they're fully formed. So it's a complete animal, fully formed, rapid appearance, you see. And then if you can trace it to the present day, you see little or no directional change. And something else that a lot of people think that everything is gradually changing into something new, you know. We just kind of assume. And yet, even the paleontologists, virtually to a one, will say that things do not gradually change into something new in time. Of course, I guess the only way you can still save face and remain an evolutionist by getting into this whole idea of punctuated equilibria. Perhaps you've heard of that new little scenario. You see, you have to come up with something else that would support an evolutionary idea. So punctuated equilibria says, well, things don't change in time, but from time to time, they jump into a new form. They don't gradually change into a new form. They kind of jump. And that's the punctuation of the forms in equilibrium. That's a long story in itself. But anyway, the whole concept of punctuated equilibria is being promoted more and more and more, and yet we have little, if any, evidence for it.
To substantiate that theory.
That's right. The thing is, we see everything is gapped. We see that things don't gradually change. So we say, well, the way to get around that is, well, they must have been punctuated into their present forms, you see. And yet we haven't the faintest idea what the mechanism would be, even though some would still like to claim some Darwinian concepts like natural selection or mutation or what have you. But essentially, we're kind of out of business. In fact, there's a neat book, and I wish I had it here. Oh boy, I can't think of the author, but the title is Evolution, a Theory in Crisis. Evolution, a Theory in Crisis. In fact, this book, The Origin of Living Things, refers to this particular book quite a bit. In fact, I would highly recommend that Christians get this book, The Origin of Living Things. It was written by a local man right here, Darrell Kautz. Excellent book, just excellent. Oh, Michael Denton. He even says, permission to quote extensively from books written by Michael Denton. Let's see, and also Dr. Wilder Smith, Professor A.E. Wilder Smith. Both of those gentlemen have multiple PhDs in the sciences, and both of them are just excellent creationists. Even though this man is not specifically a scientist, he draws from those other two, and he really is an Old Testament scholar. So he knows his Old Testament. He draws from some of the best in the sciences who recognize creation as being more legitimate, and then he gives us a book. This book, by the way, was highly recommended by the Creation Research Society, and they're a body of people that are in the sciences. There's over 800 of them with their doctorates or masters. It's probably the most professional group of scientists who believe in creation in the world. And so, The Origin of Living Things.
By
that would
Darrell
be my
Kautz.
single book for Christians to really read. It would give them enough clout scientifically and also plenty of biblical references, too, to support, hey, we really haven't got any room to believe in anything but creation. And yet, we don't feel coerced in believing creation in spite of the evidence, but because of the evidence as well as the biblical revelation. Okay.
Goodbye, Blossom.
Blossom, we're going to put you away. You're a good girl. I'm sure glad you were put on this earth. I'll tell you, it's not just the Indians that ate a lot of possum. A lot of people still eat possum down south. I'm convinced that right after the Civil War, a lot of black folks ate a lot of possum. Because if you left your slave master, you obviously had to get some food down your tummy. And to this day, I would say a lot of black folks, as well as white folks down south, eat a lot of possum. They bake them with sweet potatoes. I've never eaten possum, but I do have an acquaintance there at the museum still there, and he said, anytime you want to get rid of Blossom here,
someone's in the market for
give them to me and I'll invite you over for dinner, baked with sweet potatoes.
Oh, my.
Blossom, we aren't going to do that. We aren't. We're going to put you back in a back 40 and let you live out a nice, right life. No. Come on there, girl. Where's... I let her usually walk in. Of course, I got a much bigger table. Just kind of a simple little motel room away from home, you know, and the price is right. Okay. Now, this next animal... Sorry about all this mess here.
That's quite all right.
This next animal was also a very important animal for human survival. This animal was excellent for Indians here in the northern states, where it got very cold and it's difficult to find animals when it's real, real cold out there. Many of the animals, they hibernate or they migrate, or this animal doesn't do either. He doesn't hibernate, doesn't migrate. He's easy to catch, and he's about 20 to 25 pounds. And because of that, and on top of that, he has very few enemies. I would say the human form of life is perhaps the #1 enemy of this animal, at least in the past. And then there was also a weasel-like animal, sometimes called a big weasel, but better known as the fisher, that goes after this particular form. But the Indians thought so much of this animal, they considered it a special gift from God. Some of the tribes, that is. So let's take a look at pincushion here. If I'm going to hold pincushion, we're going to have gloves, because pincushion is loaded with 25 to 30,000 pins, are best called quills. Okay?
Create some space here.
Make a little space. Oh, come on. I don't know how this is going to work. Living world, they call this adaptation. Okay, we're going to adapt. Come on there, pincushion. Are you going to come out? I don't think pincushion's going to come out.
Well, I don't think I'll put my hand in there.
This table is just a little bit too small. Here's what we'll do. I'll just reach in there and grab her.
Oh, my.
Come on here, girl.
Oh, they make a sound.
Oh, she makes a sound. There's pincushion.
Look at
Pincushion the porcupine. Look at that. Listen to that. Are you going to talk here into the microphone? Some of these people have never heard a porcupine talk. Why, isn't that a cute face? Isn't that a cute face? Now, just look at that face. There's no quills on the face. Jan, would you like to kiss a porcupine?
No, I'll wave at a porcupine. That's about it.
You know, my mother once said that when she kissed my father after he didn't shave for a day or two, it's just like kissing a porcupine. You know, at the time, I thought she was right, but she was wrong. Because porcupines don't have any quills on their face, around their mouth. She's a cutie. Just look at this. Here's what I usually do for the children and any other group that I've got. I show people how the porcupine can very effectively hold on to things. And let's pretend that my arm is part of a tree. Okay, there you go. She's up there, and Hurricane Hugo is coming around. Look at there.
Look at her.
Now, can you see her throwing any quills? Porcupines don't throw quills. Why don't we forget about that idea? That's an old tale. That's not true. Come on there, Porky. The porcupine is the second largest rodent in North America.
This is in the rodent family?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had no idea.
Second largest rodent. Can you see her pretty teeth? Oh, come on, show your teeth. Oh, show your teeth. Her teeth are not white and pretty. No close-up for her.
Now, is that typical for porcupines to have them that color, or is that just...
Yeah. Her teeth are kind of, what is it, orangey brown?
Yes.
Okay, orangey brown. That's typical of her, the colored teeth. Then when you hold a porcupine, oh, I didn't get any quills. I could feel a few quills, but usually I'll hold her. Ah, yes, we're getting a, well, that's a hair. There's a quill right there.
This is...
But usually when I hold her and start swinging her, she gives me a quill or two. Here I've got a quill right there. Now, Jan, she won't attack you.
Oh, mercy.
She won't attack you. But, now, Pincushion, would you please stay right there and talk into the microphone, please? She's just a big old herbivore. She's just a big old herbivore. She really doesn't attack much of anything. She lets other things attack her, and then they wish they hadn't attacked her.
And they do not throw quills.
No, they don't throw quills.
Then how does the quill get into the
Well,
mummy?
here's what happens. The quill is very, very nicely designed. You see these right here? Let's see. Can we get some? She doesn't want to give me any quills here today. Huh? I'll show you some of the... Oh, there's a quill right there. You see, when a quill goes in, it doesn't want to come out very easily. See?
Oh, my.
It stays in there because there are tiny little barbs on the tip of a quill. You can't see them unless you put it under a microscope. So you touch a porcupine, and you can easily get one of those quills stuck in you. And then she does something, though, that encourages the quill to stick in you, and that's snap her tail up.
Ooh.
She snaps her tail up sometimes. In fact, they sometimes twist around like that, and if you get close, she snaps her tail, and then ends up giving you a few quills. But she doesn't technically throw the quills.
Now, and the quills are on the back hindquarters then, and not this long in the front?
That's what you would think. And I should explain that. Actually, the quills are located from the tip of the tail all the way to her eyebrows. A lot of the hair here is masking the quills. Look, Jen, probably the camera probably won't even pick this up. Come on, girl. You can't really see it very easily, but look, there's all kinds of quills in here, see?
Yes.
All kinds of quills. Thousands and thousands of quills. Oh, I'll tell you, the animal rights people are really going to get me for this, I'll tell you. This poor thing is suffering. You sound like you're suffering when you really got it made at my house. I'll tell you.
Charles, how did you get her? As long as you're talking animal rights, how did you get her?
I went up north and I bought her.
Did you really?
From an animal farm that has all the rights to, sell animals, and I bought her. I feel very privileged to have her because I think she's the only one in the county. The zoo, I don't believe, has an American porcupine. They have some African, but no American porcupines. I saved these quills, by the way, and let's see. We'll put her down there for a second. I save these, and I usually put the quills right here. Now, there's a good example of some quills. Isn't this a beauty? Here is a real nice shaped quill.
Oh, my.
Now, if this gums in you, you are going to have difficulty in getting this thing out.
Charles, this looks like it might have been used as a needle in tribal cultures, for example, if they were needed.
It's a possibility. Indians did a lot with these things. They decorated baskets and belts and moccasins. They made little earrings. In fact, I have a friend, Ron Code. Are you hear me? Are you out there, Ron? Well, anyway, Ron Code makes some beautiful earrings, and I try to give him my extra quills. He just retired from the museum, I believe just 6 weeks ago or so, something like that. But instead of just throwing these away, I like to give them to him. He can make good use out of them where I have no use for them. I understand that he learned how to use these quills in the old Indian ways from some of his grandparents who are from Canada, so Canadian Indians.
So far we've seen 3 rodents and 1 that is a representative of the marsupial family. And for me, personally, I had absolutely no idea that a porcupine was in the rodent family. That's fascinating.
Well, come on there, girl. You really... By the way, I wish I would have had a ripe banana. She loves to eat ripe banana. What she does, though, on a regular basis, she eats a little biscuit called monkey chow, which is... contains all the vitamins and minerals that just anybody would want. And she eats an apple every day, and usually a slice of bread. So,
low cholesterol diet.
most of us could live very nicely on what I feed her.
Yes, I'll bet.
And when she gets sick, and she did get sick on me once, called the doctor, veterinarian, explained what was happening. She obviously had an upper respiratory infection, and he prescribed, nonetheless, amoxicillin pediatric drops.
Honestly.
Which is widely used among humans. So you can see, we humans and porcupines have much in common. The truth of the matter is, we have much in common with every other mammal. So much in common, you can see why many evolutionists would like to believe we're all related. And yet, when we look at our soft parts, when we look at some of these other things about life, are we going to say we're related distantly to the porcupine? When porcupines only seek porcupines. Everything seeks its own kind, reproduces its own kind. Everything has a distinct DNA molecule with distinctive information on it. And so, I think it just makes far more sense to believe in an almighty God that gave us all of this, that there's extreme intelligence there, a lot of purpose, there's a lot of planning. This animal, too, I think has far more use than just giving food for Indians and people, other people, as well as food for fishers. You see, this animal will eat the bark off of trees. And I would guess in the neighborhood of maybe 1 tree out of 100 will die from porcupines, where there are porcupines. So if you're very sensitive about tree life, you may not like to have them around, because a few trees do die from porcupines, girdling the tree. But because of dead trees, there's a number of other animals that live more successfully because of dead trees. So I think the porcupine is of service to other animals, indirectly, by providing dead trees. Okay, how are we doing? Come on there, girl. You can get in there. It's so cute to watch her walk in there on a long rectangular table.
She sort of waddles in, does she?
The kids all say, "Did you teach her to walk in that into that place?"
Well, what else do you have for us?
We got a few things in there.
Somehow this box doesn't look as threatening as some of those other ones, Charles.
Oh, let's see. Oh, yes, this next animal, instead of looking in this box, this next animal is something that we should really look up to and respect, even though it has had a bad press from the beginning. And it's an animal that is just an excellent predator of rats and mice. Every civilization has had to control rat and mouse populations to be successful. I think that's one reason why the Egyptians were quite successful. They knew how to control rat and mouse populations, control the grain reserves and so forth. And so here's an animal that goes right in to where the rats and the mice are located. They don't wait until the mice grow up and come out. Where cats, they'll have to wait till they come out. Here is an excellent predator of rats and mice, just by the nature of their being. Some of them are poisonous, but not this guy.
Okay.
Now, Jan,
yes,
you are a hardy soul.
I thought I was until moments ago.
I know, you enjoy looking at God's creatures and know that everything is made for a purpose, made very good. And for all practical purposes, most animals are harmless to us as long as we don't threaten them. Right? You aren't going to threaten us.
No threat.
Okay, very good. This is Beulah, the beautiful bull snake.
Oh, mercy.
Just look at Beulah. Now look, if Beulah were a wild bull snake, I would say beware. But since Beulah has been handled and handled and handled,
Right.
we can reasonably be safe.
Charles, could I interrupt you for 1 second and tell me, am I hearing things or is somebody making some
No,
sound
there
over here?
is Harold back there.
Okay.
He's looking for Harriet, and he's going to have to wait another 45 minutes.
Right.
It's the way some guys are. They just can't leave their
That's-
ladies alone more than that long.
So we'll leave that animal alone.
Anyway,
So you're saying that this is a bull snake?
this is a bull snake. This is kind of a neat snake here in Wisconsin. They get along well with the timber rattlers. They often live with timber rattlers. And they even wiggle their tails a little bit like rattlesnakes, and some people will mistake them for rattlesnakes. And unfortunately, some people kill anything that looks and sounds like a rattlesnake. But the bull snake has been even referred to as the jewel on the farm, because a farmer, knowing a bull snake, would never kill a bull snake. This is just a marvelous animal to have around the barn. With a few bull snakes around the barn, no one gets hurt except the rats and the mice. And they know just where to go. Are you going to stick your tongue out? Hey, girl, come on. Too bad you can't hear me, girl. They're all deaf. No ears, no ear bones. What a marvel of creation. Just a marvel to think of the unlimited intelligence of God. Is just, kind of spine-tingling when you begin to realize that everything has such beauty and purpose designed to it. Look, at first you may think, gee, what a handicap. No arms, no legs, the poor thing can't even build a home for itself.
Right.
And yet, with that in mind, there's any number of animals that provide homes for snakes. One researcher said if you looked into woodchuck homes, you'd probably find more snakes in it than woodchucks. And so, if a snake could talk, you'd probably say, hey, the woodchuck is the greatest thing that God put on this earth. And if a farmer is a wise farmer, he'd say, here's one of the finest animals that God put on this earth, so I can raise grain to feed my cows and chickens and horses and pigs and sell to people. So there you go. Nice animal. I would strongly suggest that people not pick up bull snakes because they almost always bite, the wild ones.
So there is a certain amount of venom that would be dangerous?
No, technically they haven't got any venom. There's no venom in the bull snake. It's just a bunch of nasty little sharp teeth that'll cause you to bleed a little bit, but you've got 5 quarts. So I don't think you have to worry about, even rushing to the hospital on this one. But it would be a nasty little bite. Some bull snakes are really quite nasty, but Beulah here is kind of a sweetie. She's really never bitten me, and she's never bitten anyone else. And of course, there's always a first time for everything. Now, I do let the kids touch this snake, but I usually lift it up high and let them touch the bottom part. And then the kids often want to know where the eggs come from. And of course, I tell them that bull snakes lay eggs instead of having live babies, and the eggs come out of a common opening right here where all the rest of the stuff comes out. Right here. No, it looks like something's coming out right now. Well, anyway, what's a little feces among friends? How's that? Okay, nice little animal. And I really think that our whole country would be in better shape if we had more non-poisonous snakes. If we would just, instruct people to leave snakes alone. We wouldn't have to use near as much rat poison and mouse poison and rat traps, and we'd have a far better take for our grain, and even the balance of our budget would be better. We could sell more grain to other people in the world.
Charles, he's really a very complicated animal, isn't he?
Yes, he really
looks
is.
so simplistic in design, but all of the movement on the
That's
underside of his skin,
That's
all is used in propelling, it looks like.
Do you want to feel it, Jan? You don't have to worry. Is it slimy?
No, not
No,
in the
it's not
least.
slimy.
I'm very
It's
surprised.
dry and scaly, isn't it? Dry and scaly. Nice animal indeed. I have 2 more bull snakes at home. And I have to thank John from the museum, John Ludwig. Oh, my. John, I'm sorry I forgot your last name. But anyway, John gave me this, and he's from the history department. He gave me this snake along with another snake, a known female. And my known female is with a known male, and they are trying to make those eggs fertile right now. And so when she lays her eggs, we hope that she does, and they're fertile. We hope to have some baby bull snakes later on in the spring.
Fascinating.
Okay, Nice little animal, and I try to reduce the fears in people. I try to point out that every form of life, including this snake, is extremely important here on this earth. You know, God didn't make any junk.
That's right.
He made everything complete. He made it with a purpose. He even said in his word that he made things very good. This is very good. There's no question about it. In fact, this is even very good to eat if you had to eat it. All snakes are edible.
Fascinating. Charles, I think we have time for one more just before we're done.
See how this hour goes by. It's unreal.
It certainly does.
Look at there.
Quills.
Quills. Sometimes up. Oh, here we got some more
Beulah.
quills. I sometimes end up driving home and I can feel these quills digging into my underclothing. Okay. We do have one more animal. That's all we have anyway, and I like to finish with this animal anyway, especially in public schools. Oh my, there's another quill. Whew. Never know where those quills are going to
pop up, yes.
Here's Harold. Harold looking for Harriet. And you see why I like to bring out Harold. Harold is a bird that represents some very dear things to the hearts of people all over the world. And they don't even have to be Christian to recognize that this bird is kind of special. It represents peace, often representing love and purity. And certainly we can use more peace, we can use more love and more purity in this world. But more important than that, it has represented the Holy Spirit ever since the Holy Spirit came down when Christ was being baptized in the form of a dove. Look at how she looks around. He looks around. Isn't he just a curious little character?
Charles, I've just been given the signal that we have about 60 seconds left. As you've talked about the Holy Spirit, why don't you just give us some concluding thoughts before we're done for this evening?
Well, anyway, I usually leave on this little note of peace, wishing all of you peace. And I wish all of you Christians are filled with the Holy Spirit. And it would be my wish that you learn more and more about life here on earth. That by learning more about life on earth, we will have no excuse even to doubt the reality of God.
Charles,
I just thank you for this opportunity to show you my animals and hope that I see some of you out there in the viewing audience with my animal program.
Thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate that. And may we give your telephone number if individuals would like to contact you?
If you can.
All right, your number is 647-2894. That's 647-2894. And if you joined us late, this is Mr. Charles Roessger, who does have a talk with the animals. You can tell that this is a man who understands God's creatures and has the privilege and responsibility of teaching us about God's handiwork. I thank you, Charles. And I thank you for spending this Friday night with us, and I hope you learned something more about the magnificence of our Creator, that all of these things didn't happen by accident. They happened by divine design, just like you. And when you stop and think about that, it gives you the oomph to get up out of bed in the morning and make a difference where you are. God bless you, and thank you so much for joining us as we more clearly put the issues in focus.